Hello, everybody. Welcome to Geek Impulse. I am your host, Joshua Sexton, and today I have a friend who I've known for well over a decade now. Her name is Cyanne McClairian. She's here today to talk about her career in acting, which has been extended for, wow, several decades, if I'm not mistaken, has done quite well for herself in Hollywood. And so I invited her today to talk more about her career and what she's got going on. So without further ado, Sam, why don't you go ahead and tell people a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got started in acting?
Well, hello. First off, I'm Cyanne, and yeah, just very honored to be here today, and love Josh. We've known each other. Yeah, I think it has been decades. So I started acting back when I was 6. Kind of taught myself how to read with Shakespeare, and the rest was kind of history. Ended up on stage as a fairy, and you get your first standing ovation when you're not very big, and you just know that's what you want to do. So since then, it's just been, you go through school and everything, and that was more the focus. And so once I graduated, I went to American Academy Dramatic Arts over here in Hollywood, and chose LA instead of New York because more film oriented and TV. And ever since then, it's just, graduate and doing a lot of that. I did a lot of independent films shortly thereafter. Um, and it's been, acting is not a straight road, which is one of the things that I love about it. Actually, you really have to love it. It has to live inside you. You can't just come out and say, hey, I want to be famous. You might get lucky, but you know most of the time, if it doesn't live inside you, you're not enjoying what you're doing as much as you could be. And that's what you bring to the characters. That's what I love to bring, to find each of these crazy people that I get to play. And I mean, the road bumps, I also have a heart condition. So I did a one woman show like 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 2015. And I'm currently actually in the process of making it into a film because the interest was so high. But it's called I Died, I Came Back, whatever, because I did a couple of times. And, that kind of changes the terrain, so to speak, in acting when you have to take a 6 month off. I think in any field, when you have to take 6 months off from time to time or whatnot. But it's like the relationships that you make and the passion that lives inside you, it always brings you back. And I've been very fortunate the last number of years. And I think the older I get, I'm liking the roles I'm playing more somehow, because as I was younger, I looked more ingenue. And there's, there are some fun ingenue roles, but as you get older, you get more of the spicy uh, roles that are like best friend or the crazy neighbor, or the more the character types. And that's more what I've grown into, which I really enjoy. And I think that's where um, things are taking the leaps right now, especially even through the pandemic and whatnot. Just picked up some new reps across the board, which was great, both a manager and an agent, new agent. So I'm represented with a team, a next level team, which is a step up, as well as just had a red carpet, excuse
Yeah,
me, that I got styled for. And I've never been styled before, but the web series wanted to have me and my husband styled. So that was really cool,
that's
So all these different things that are all happening, and it's just living in what is possible, and loving what you do, I think.
yeah, I definitely agree. You touched on a couple things, and the fact that it's something I've always admired about you, right, over the years, and ever since I met you, is this kind of free spirit who is really living the life on their own terms. You're doing what you love, and so you're always everybody has their challenges, but you always seem to be in a pretty good mood. And it's one thing I've liked about you is that energy, right? And so I
Thank
think
you.
it's pretty awesome that you're able to do that and continue to do something that you really enjoy and love as you go through the years and have such an incredible career, right? But my big question is, what's this obsession with William Shakespeare?
I love him. Some people call me crazy and I'm fine with that. I was probably one of my first lives reincarnated from William Shakespeare. I think, I think I acted with him on stage at some point. But I don't know. It's so beautiful. It's so wonderful. The things that he manages to say and the things that you can express just through prose or iambic pentameter. I mean, there's the phrases that he's brought that we still use to this day are just insane, So, and it's kind of disappearing into a different world. So it's a little escapism also, not the best situation, certainly with, all the diseases they had back then and lack of different things we've managed to improve, but at the same time such a much simpler life, and his passion and his words you could just fall into. I
Yeah.
mean, there is not a role that I wouldn't want to play, male or female.
Yeah, I get that. That's pretty awesome. I always wanted to ask you about that, so I'm glad we got a chance to,
Yeah.
especially here on camera. I got you on camera talking about it. And so, one of the, you're so diverse when it comes to the characters you play. I remember, some of the roles we did where we did that, comedy show where we performed at the Viper Room and stuff like that. For our, our acting school, things like that.
Yeah.
But then all the stuff you're playing now, how is it that you're able to play all these wide range of characters? What do you do to prepare? Like, what's your whole process like? And did you ever think like, or rather, is it easy for you, or do you find it challenging to be able to play all these different roles?
That's a good question. I think it depends on the role, honestly. um oh, you are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
um yeah, I think it depends on the role, to be honest. I think with each role I have to have a feeling about the role. It's like you see it, you read the role, somebody sends it to you or asks you if you're interested, and you need to be able to see things from their point of view. You need to be able to dive in a little bit and be interested. So sometimes if it's a harder character, someone I've never played or something like that, and I might be intrigued to try it, but if I'm not interested in the character at all, if there's nothing redeeming it, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a redeeming character to look at or to read, but if I can't find something redeeming in them, then there's nothing really to dig into. I personally have been very lucky. I haven't really had roles come at me that I'm not interested in. For the most part, yeah. The Sometimes I'll take on roles that are more difficult or I have less in common with for that exact reason. There's actually a good example. Shortly before the pandemic, I was cast in a play that we're going to be doing after we come through this whole thing. Actually, it's a role that somebody wrote for me that is nothing I've ever played in my life. So I was like, I don't know how you thought me for this specifically, but at the same time, I'm like, this is so exciting because it's a dark story. It's two sisters. She's more the supporting character, but she's also softer. The lead is more of the antagonist, kind of along the lines of like a Kathy Bates kind of character for the lead. Very misery kind of
Got it.
story. Um, and that's usually where I end up getting cast. Along that line, somewhere, whether it, not directly that way, but maybe a little crazy, but something along there. But this one is more the supporting the sister, the softer character. And so seeing it in the first place is like, oh, well, this is not the role that I would get cast in. And it's like, oh, wait, this is not the role I would get cast in. Wait, I haven't played this before. Wait, could I play this? And your brain just starts going, and it's like, oh, well, what would I bring to that would be, and it's like when you get excited about a character for whatever reason, that that's a character you want to play. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get that. So aside from, and congratulations, by the way, of actually, getting a whole team and getting something written specifically for you. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. You've won several awards in film festivals and things like that over the years as well. So you're very much accomplished, and so congratulations on these new things that are coming about. Very well deserved. Why don't you tell me more about, you touched on, something you did that was really well received, and now you're going to be making a film about it. I'm assuming that it's going to be with you and your husband's production company, right? Fearless Imp Entertainment. So
Yep.
why don't you tell me about how that production company came about, what's your goals with that, and what you're doing now with that?
Well, right now we're kind of passive on it because of the pandemic, and my husband's been diving into the day job a little bit more because of circumstances and everything. But we are prepping. He's getting the website going and getting us registered in different ways for that. We've done a short film that we're going to be color correcting with that production company, and we've done a couple of plays so far. So once we color correct the film, it's called Together. It's about abuse, and we're going to be submitting that to a lot of festivals coming up in the for this next year, after we have it looking the way we want to, color corrected and everything. But the production company itself, Fearless Imp Entertainment, I love the name. We, as actors, as entertainers, he's a director. We actually met in acting class, same acting class I met you in. But it was fascinating because he's the type of person where he'd be like, he memorizes really fast. He's got photographic memory, so annoying. But at the same time, it gives his brain a chance to focus on where he's passionate with. And that ended up being, it's like he'd be up in his scene and then say, oh, right, I'm up. Okay. And then he'd come back and somebody would go, two other people would go up and act, and you'd come back and you'd go, oh, okay, so I want to work with you, and I've got this idea just from watching you there, and oh, right, I'm up again. Okay, hold that thought and I'll be right back. And so it was obvious that he was more passionate in that area. I'm much more of a ham. I like to be on camera, on stage. I do not want to do any of the stuff behind the screen. I like it, but it gets me bogged down, and I need to, I free spirit. So yeah. I like to be on camera. That's where my brain works.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome because, everybody has their strengths. Me doing some acting, doing some stunts for a combat casting is what it used to be called before it was bought and it's no longer around. Doing stunts for that, working on films in that way, coming full circle to owning my own company. And it's not about me, but I'm trying to drive home the fact that, as like your husband and like you, acting is about also finding yourself. And we find, through wanting to do acting or whatnot, that it's a stepping stone to the journey we really want to take. right?
Yeah.
You still want to be in front of camera. I still want to be in front of the camera, but I don't necessarily think so much as an actor as maybe like a journalist or, maybe also working behind the scenes as a director, things like that. Whereas your husband as well is like, yeah, I don't mind being in front, but I really like doing this back here. And then you being in front. And I think that's great because that dynamic really works, right? Because now you've got this
Yeah.
production company. He wants to film something. You can help in the acting aspect. He can help on the back end. And then because of what you guys know and who you know and things like that, because again, it's mostly about who you know in Hollywood.
It
Right?
is, which, I mean, yeah, it's like a 60-40. It depends on the day. Well, maybe it's 55-45, but it depends on per situation, which is 55 and which is 45,
Mm.
because you need to be talented and have like a good work ethic. But at the same time, if you're not connected and don't know anybody, then you're just counting on luck. So yeah, so that's how the production company itself came about, because we realized, the different aspects that we have and we can bring to the table. And specifically with the title, we looked at the type of pieces we want to produce and we want to do. And pretty much it's fearless pieces
Yeah.
that dive in, not your timid, they can be pretty. There are a lot of art films out there that are, or other films that are like action or different genres, that are not diving in necessarily to oh my god, wait, what happened? Like Michaela Cold, who just won the Emmy for best writing
Mm.
for oh gosh, for oh, I love that. I literally stood up and started screaming. I was so happy she won. Anyway, she's a survivor and she won for writing. And the piece that I Will Destroy You, that's what it's called. But it's taking a risk. It's going out there and taking a risk. And I think with that, you kind of bring take people along in that uh, on the one hand, they're with you while you take the risk, and on the other hand, you may inspire people to take a risk on their own as well. Well, if they can do that, maybe what if I could do that, kind of thing at the same time, you know what I mean? And
Oh yeah.
that we also liked on the side, Fearless Imp Entertainment, FIE, FI, which is kind of Shakespearean going back
Yeah.
around.
Of course.
So,
Yeah. So, what advice would you give to, you know, people in general that are looking to, leave their home in, I don't know, Nebraska, come out to LA, start doing acting, you know, what do you think they can do starting off that maybe you had to learn trial and error, right? Like, a lot of times you don't always have a mentor or somebody right away where you could just get in there and start doing things and it helps, elevate your career quickly. So you might have had to do a lot of trial and error, maybe not. But with that being said, somebody from Nebraska coming down there and wanting to, start off where they might have a better footing in Hollywood from the get-go, what kind of advice would you give them?
well, we all have trial and error at different levels, first off. I mean, some people may have less than others, but just acknowledging and knowing that it most likely won't be a smooth ride in the first place is one thing that they definitely should know. To just be there. If you don't really love it, if it doesn't, like, I think I said this a little earlier, if it doesn't live inside you, if there's anything else that you could do and be 100% happy, um do something else. I mean, that it not to discourage people, but at the same time, it's like it's a hard road. There's a lot of, it's like some people come out and struggle a lot. Other people are lucky and get a piece, but then they make it right away, but then they have to struggle to get back there, so to speak. So it's knowing that everybody has a journey. Before they come out, I would see what you have locally in the first place, see if you can put together some sort of a reel or something, put together some scene work, memorize, maybe do some things on the phone, since we have that access these days, so you can actually have some coverage. And then because you're going to need it when you get here. When you get here, the first things you're going to need is a class. You need to get into class immediately, because you can never stop learning.
Yeah.
And you need to love it, and you need to have copy. And what I mean by copy is yourself on camera for people to see, because they can't cast you if they don't know what you look like on camera. And that may sound silly because they can see a headshot, but people don't necessarily look like their headshots. And
Yeah.
there's, at the same time, which is another thing, you want to look like your headshot, but at the same time, people look a little different on camera. It's like, I look different on camera than I do on a headshot. I think I look pretty similar, but it's also a matter of why I just got new headshots, because I now have rainbow that fits in my bohemian blue collar brand. So
Yeah.
I didn't have headshots with rainbow, but apparently my new reps like it and it works, but I need to have a headshot like that. Otherwise, it's like you can't do a self tape for somebody and go, hey, by the way, this will go away. We all know it's hair. It can be changed in a heartbeat. Same thing with the beard and whatnot. You can shave it if needed. But if you don't have a headshot with yourself clean shaven, they don't know, A, that you're going to do it, and B.
Well, I would look too much like a baby face. So I kind of, so I try to keep this going. But no, I definitely agree with you. There's some good points there. Now, I want to be respectful of your time. I don't want to take too much of it. I know you're very busy. So two more questions before we end things here. The first thing is one that I've mentioned before in other past interviews, where I asked this question that I feel like a lot of people don't ask. It's kind of my thing so far, unless somebody has asked before, but I haven't seen it. And that is, what question do you wish you have been asked that you have never been asked before?
As a new actor, or just as an actor?
Just anything in general. It's, what kind of question would you like to be asked that you have never been asked before when it comes to, interviewing you?
That's a really good question. I don't know. Colbert does a great Q&A that like 10 questions, but
well, you hear it first. You said Colbert has nothing on me. I like it.
This is true. This is true. Nothing on you. This question has never been asked. So I think let's see. Nobody generally asks where you see yourself. Where you see yourself, what if you're in this industry, whether you're in as a beginner and you've just gotten here, and you can be a beginner at 60 or at 5, it doesn't make a difference, because all ages have to start somewhere. But when you're getting in, you need to know where you're headed and what could I do any role? Sure, I think I could do any role, but do I know specifically where I'd see myself and what I want, where I want to be? Yeah, I know that too. I mean, for the longest time, I was blonde, and I was going to be the first blonde Ophelia on film in Shakespeare's Hamlet. Then Kate Winslet did that, and that was that. But
that darn Kate Winslet.
Yeah. Well, if you have to be outed by someone, I mean, there are worse. But I think, like for me, um, instead of like we have a vision board, and we used to do our vision board with who we want to work with and what shows that are already on that we want to be on, etc. Instead, getting more specific with uh, what show am I going to be on? If it's TV, okay, so on TV, um, something similar to like a cross between Supernatural and um, well, like a witchy kind of Rowena character that's, in a time traveling kind of thing. So in a library that can be dramatic and have some depth to her at the same time as a place to grow, but also sort of a different kind of role. And you've got different eras to jump into because I love different timelines. Or on film, I'd love to play Helen Mirren's daughter. I mean, whatever the role is, I will play at some point Helen Mirren's daughter in a film.
There you go.
It's like knowing where you see yourself, and then when you get your representation, or even before when you're searching for your representation, you can help them with where you see yourself. And if they don't see that, you need to either help them see that, or else maybe you're way off base on what your type is, what your brand is. I mean, what kind of mom would you play? What kind of neighbor are you? Type of thing.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not your posh 90210 soccer mom. Just not going to automatically happen. I would be Ozark or Shameless and forgot I even had a kid because I'm strung out on something. Forecasting,
Right.
not life.
On screen, we understand.
On screen.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I think that's a really good answer to a question I didn't ask. But the reason why I like to ask that question is because I feel like it helps the person that I'm talking to get to know themselves more, and it allows their audience to really get to know them on a deeper way, because the way you answer is subjective, and I like that
Yeah.
because I feel like it gets a lot of genuine answers. So yeah, that was great. And then yeah, for sure. And then yeah, well, I'm glad you have a good time with it. I'm glad that it didn't scare you too much. Some people get scared at answering that. But last but not least, like, where can people find you as far as like social media, things like that, so they can interact with you?
Absolutely. On Insta, I'm Cyanne Macca. That's my name, Cyanne, M as in Mary, ACCA. In case you didn't know, well, Josh and I met in an Australian acting class, and I was informed that, with a last name McClairian, having a MCC in Australia, I would be called Macca. So I am Cyanne Macca.
There you go.
And that's the same on Twitter. And I have a Facebook page, Cyanne McClairian is my actor page. And then I also have a website that is sightingcyanne.com.
Right.
So
Awesome.
one sighting of Cyanne, go to sightingcyanne.com.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that. And what I'll do too, just so everybody watching this knows, I'll go ahead and put all those details in, because this will be on YouTube. And I'll go ahead and put all those details also in the description below the video, so they can go to you and find you there. So yeah, that's it. I appreciate you being here. And if you don't mind hanging on a second afterwards, I'll stop the recording, and then we'll talk a little bit afterwards. But again, I do appreciate you being here and doing this interview. I think it was awesome. It's good to see you, because we haven't seen each other since we saw each other just before the pandemic started. So it's good to see you again.
Absolutely. Honor to be here.